Hi, and welcome to this week's solo episode of the Guest List podcast. I am your host, Steve Guest. And whenever it comes up to the solo podcast, I've mentioned this a few times during the episodes over the last 12 months, but I always start to think about situations or scenarios or, I suppose, occurrences that have happened to me, or perhaps where my mind's been at for the week. Because you've always got to think of content and what you want to discuss. And today's episode is no different. You sit there at work or at home and you occasionally see good things happening. You see people celebrating each other and rewarding each other, promotions, referrals, and good events happening. But quite a lot, you don't get to see that. Certainly on social media, you see the trolls, you see people trying to pull each other down a peg or two, or you see the media going after certain individuals and pulling them down a peg or two. And it just got me thinking in terms of how we all act and react as individuals. And it brought me back to the concept of pay it forward. Some of you will know this, some of you won't. If any of you have watched the film, it's a year 2000 film. It's got Kevin Spacey in it. It's also based on a novel by Catherine Ryan Hyde. It's called Pay It Forward. And it's the story of a 12-year-old boy, Trevor McKinney, who wants to create, I suppose, a goodwill movement. And he creates this Pay It Forward as part of a school project. And the assignment is based on Trevor doing a good deed, and whoever he does the good deed or the good favour for, the recipient has to go and do 3 more good deeds or favours for 3 other individuals. And it has to be something that the recipient can't complete themselves. And it's a really good film. I really enjoyed it. It didn't get particularly great reviews at the box office, but the sentiment is there. And obviously any film with Kevin Spacey intends to be a pretty decent film. But it's about how we treat each other, and it's, I suppose, doing things without the request or without the belief that you're going to get something in return or be paid for the favour that you're doing. And I think from that and various other things that have happened, there's a Pay It Forward movement now, the Pay It Forward Foundation, which was founded in the USA. 2007 in Australia, they created the International Pay It Forward Day, which is April the 28th for any of you that are interested. But I thought I would use this podcast as a bit of a platform to get you thinking and just to have, I suppose, that awareness and that thought process of, do you go through each day and do you offer kind of goodwill gestures? Are you pleasant in your approach? Do you do simple tasks like holding the door open for someone? Do you help people carry bags? If they're struggling to lift certain things, do you step in? Do you smile and say good morning to people? Do you let that person out of the junction that you know is a tough junction, but you always drive past? When you're cutting your lawn, do you cut your neighbour's lawn because it's a nice thing to do? Have you ever been at Costa or Starbucks or whichever coffee house you visit and pay for the person behind you's coffee? It's just to get you thinking. And if we as a group of individuals can start to do things where we pay it forward and we create that little bit of happiness or that moment of goodwill, actually the way it makes you feel for doing that is amazing. I'm not sure whether I mentioned this on an episode probably 6-7 months ago. There's a guy, I go and grab a morning coffee every morning before I get into the office. And there's an elderly guy in the coffee shop that I see every morning. His name's Fred. And every so often I get in a little bit earlier than him, which isn't too often, but I do it sometimes. And I pay for his coffee, or I put a credit behind the counter to say when Fred gets in, can you just let him know the coffee's paid? On occasion, I've paid for it and walked out and not even said anything, because the thought of the fact his coffee's paid for just makes me have a better day, and it sets me up for a good day. And I think having the platform that this podcast creates, I think it allows me to suggest certain things or put things out there that hopefully get you to think a little bit more about how you conduct yourself, how you conduct your day. What I would love to know in the comments under this, if you're watching this on YouTube or you're listening to it on the podcast, those of you that follow me on social media, you will know that this post will go out on a Friday just before the launch of each episode, and there'll be comments in there that give you an idea in terms of what the episode's about. Just add in the comments. Now you can either add in what you do. So what is your pay it forward moment? What was your gesture of goodwill for the day? Has this podcast inspired you to do something that perhaps you wouldn't normally do? Put the scenario in the comments. If you don't want to do that and you want to keep it to yourself, which is obviously more than fair, just put something like done. Goodwill gesture done for the day. Something just to show the accountability and that this podcast episode has had some sort of effect. I did Google things like what can you do in terms of pay it forward, and I'm just going to share with you a few ideas that came up in the search. First one was pay for someone's shopping. If you're in front of someone in the queue, simply getting a Starbucks gift card, putting it behind the counter, and putting an amount on there that the next few customers can benefit from. Letting a car out, we've mentioned a couple of items. If somebody joins in the queue and you're shopping and they've only got a couple of items, do you let them in front of you? Somebody's struggling to pick boxes up or deliveries, can you help? A simple one is just smile, compliment the person or persons that you're with. You can't make an event for whatever reason. I mean, COVID and the pandemic has certainly affected things like that, but you can't, for whatever reason, make a concert or an event. Could you gift the tickets out there to someone? Just simply saying good morning to a stranger and offering a smile, I think, can sometimes make someone's day. So it's just a few things, and I would love to know what you get up to. I'd love to know how this potentially affects your day, your thought process. If you're listening to this over your lunch or over the weekend, what can you do that will just spread a little bit of goodwill, put a little smile on somebody's face, and actually make their day? I don't think we spend enough time being good and offering the positive side of things. We're all too quick sometimes to make that complaint or make our thoughts known. But when things go good, when things go well, we don't often go back and compliment and pay it forward. So that's the thought for today. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you have certain topics or questions or areas that you'd like me to discuss or cover as part of this podcast, then please get in touch. Drop me an email at steve@sguest.co.uk. If you're listening to this via Apple or Spotify and you just fancy watching me talk on video, we do have a YouTube channel, which is the Guest List with Steve Guest. Go and subscribe. There are a number of new videos that I'm putting out there now, and little cut bits where there's some really good tokens of information that you might benefit from. So go and subscribe to the YouTube channel. I look forward to catching up with you soon. Enjoy the rest of your week.